This Tuesday, Missouri voters struck down a right-to-work law by a fairly significant margin, which represented a gigantic win for Missouri's organized labor. And we're lucky now to be joined by a leader of Missouri's organized labor. This is Mike Lewis, president of Missouri's afl-cio. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Thanks very much. It's an honor to be here.
And it's great to have you here. So I want to talk to you about this struggle in particular, and then if we have time, open it up to some of the other labor battles that are going on in Missouri and around the country. But for people who might not be familiar with what Proposition A in Missouri was about, these, what the right wing call right-to-work laws, and I wonder if you have maybe a different term you use for them. What are those hoping to achieve when generally the GOP when they set up these laws?
Okay, well, let me say this. This isn't only an attack on organized labor. This is really and truly, it's an attack on the working class people of America. Big corporations, not all of them, but a lot of them want to continue to widen the gap between the working class people and the 1%. I think what we've done here is mission accomplished, but mission accomplished for working people. We've stopped it here, and we're going to continue fighting. We've built great coalitions that I think are going to be very helpful moving forward, electing people who are friendly towards working class.
Yeah. So when they pass a law like they did in Missouri, these right-to-work laws, they will pitch it as we're trying to provide freedom or choice for workers. Is that an accurate representation of what the long-term goal of these laws are?
No, well, absolutely not. And there's a couple reasons. One is that people already have those rights in the workplace. People don't have to belong to a labor union if they don't want to. Federal law prohibits that. So there are many misrepresentations. Right to work does not secure anyone a job. It doesn't give anybody a right to a job. Right to work drives down wages. Right to work creates more unsafe working more places of employment or become unsafe. So it's a total misrepresentation.
Yeah, it seems like if you're going to use the term right to work, you might support something like a guaranteed federal jobs program or something along those lines, perhaps.
Yeah, we know they're not going to do that.
No, not at all. So I've been looking into it, and up until Tuesday at least, there had been 28 states with these sorts of laws. And one of the consequences when these are put into effect is that it drives down the amount of money in terms of dues that's going to the unions. So how significant in terms of individual states' unions' ability to collectively bargain does this loss of resources actually, how big of an effect is that?
That would have a big effect, simply because you spend all your time with less money trying to fund the worker's voice, not only on the job, but on legislative issues everywhere. Labor organizations have long devoted their time, their efforts, and their resources to doing just that, representing working class people. And as I said, both on the job and legislatively. So that if you have less money, you have less people that you're able to employ to do those jobs.
So I don't know how much or how directly you work with heads of other unions like the afl-cio and other
right to work state or not. And I think that us standing up and saying no, and if you pardon me, I'll quote my favorite president, Harry Truman, the buck stopped here. Mm-hmm. And we stood up and we built coalitions with other groups who absolutely support working families and support the cause to recreate a middle class instead of just a working class who gets further and further away from the 1%. It just widens all the time. And I think this has been a great effort in coalition building to ensure that working people get their voice back, and we're able to build on that.
So I want to ask you a more general question about some of the messaging about workers and about unions, because Donald Trump, he might not be wholly different from other Republicans in this, but he has pitched himself as the only person who can save American industry, America first. He supports the workers. He mimics like digging coal and things like that. And then he supports judges who are against workers' rights. He pushes for laws like this. He sets up the tariffs, all of that sort of thing. In terms of this messaging, where there seems to be a disconnect between policy and the way that they talk about workers, at least on the Republican side, the experience of Donald Trump, how do you think that has affected future campaigns in terms of how voters will think about unions, about workers' rights, about policies that are intended to help workers?
I think the fact that he says one thing and does another, people are catching on to for sure. As you pointed out, the recent Supreme Court ruling on Janus is really devastating to working class families. They lose their voice again in the workplace and legislatively. I think as long as the president continues to make these appointments, his latest nominee for the Supreme Court, Kavanaugh, would be a horrible choice for working class people, and I hope that doesn't come to fruition. I'm afraid it would, and that would definitely open the door to further attacks from the Congress and the Senate. That while the president might not say that he's for them, he's certainly not doing anything to stop them.
And he certainly seems to be surrounding himself with people in the executive and judicial branches that are 100% on board with that. Well,
absolutely.
Mike, I want to thank you both for joining us on the show and also your work inside of Missouri in this very impressive win. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching this video from The Damage Report. Please don't forget to like the video and also to subscribe to the channel so that you get notified as soon as new videos become available. To hear even more about both this topic and other issues not being covered nearly enough by the mainstream media, you're gonna want to tune in every morning to our full hour-long show. That's at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, available on the TYT Network channel on YouTube TV.